All right, let's talk about something huge. We're diving into this, well, it's kind of like an invisible war, a war on the very systems that keep our planet, and, of course, us, alive.
So, have you ever really stopped to think about what the Earth does for you totally for free? It sounds like a simple question, right? But the answer is, well, it's pretty mind-blowing. Every single day, our planet is running all these services in the background that are so fundamental, we just take them for granted. We barely even notice them. So, what are they?
Okay, so the official term is Ecological Goods and Services. But a better way to think about it? It's like the planet's operating system. You know, all the code running in the background that makes everything work. It's the stuff that cleans our air, filters our water, builds the very soil our food grows in, and even keeps pests under control. And let's be clear, these are not just nice-to-haves. They're absolutely 100% essential for our survival. And that operating system? It's under attack.
All right, Section 1, the foundation cracks. We're going to start at the very bottom, with the foundation. The first bunch of threats we're looking at are systemic. That means they're not as easy to see as, say, a clear-cut forest. They're much quieter, kind of creeping in and eroding the very core of how our planet works.
So this table here does a great job of laying it all out. Look at what we're talking about. We're messing with the planet's most basic chemistry. You know, the carbon and nitrogen cycles? These are literally the building blocks of life. Then we've got the water cycle getting all messed up, which affects everything from rainfall to the water deep underground. And of course, we're changing the actual composition of the air we breathe. But check out that last one, land use conversion. Pay attention to that because it's often the trigger for all the others.
And this right here, this is the so what. Every single time we change a natural landscape, turn a forest into a farm or a wild patch of land into a city, we're not just redecorating. We are paying a very real ecological price. We're chipping away at those essential cycles we just talked about. I think this says it perfectly. Our physical footprint has a deep chemical echo. That really hits home.
Okay, so we've talked about the invisible stuff. Now let's move on to the things that are, well, brutally visible. This next part is all about the direct physical assault on our world's ecosystems. You could say this is the front line of that war we mentioned.
Wow, just read that quote for a second. It really says it all, doesn't it? When we wonder why species are going extinct, this is it. Habitat destruction is the #1 cause. It's the bulldozer in the room, and its impact is absolutely catastrophic.
And look at this list, it's just a snapshot of this relentless global assault. You've got deforestation for timber and cattle. You have wetlands, people call them the planet's kidneys for a reason, being drained just to grow crops. You've got mangroves, which are so important for protecting coastlines, getting ripped out for prawn farming. And on top of all that, as our cities and roads spread out like a web, we're slicing up habitats into tiny, isolated islands, trapping wildlife and pushing them right to the edge.
So it's not just about destroying habitats, it's also about taking way, way too much from what's left. I mean, look at this. Overfishing is literally emptying our oceans. In some fishing methods, like using those giant trawl nets on the ocean floor, they just scrape everything away. Life's just gone. And it's the same story on land. Overgrazing by livestock can turn lush grasslands into desert. And huge projects like mining and dams, they can completely rewrite the rules for an entire ecosystem. And a lot of the time, it's all for a pretty short-term payoff.
All right, let's change gears a bit. We've gone from the big physical destruction to something quieter, more insidious: pollution. This is all about contaminating the very air, water, and soil that all life, including us, depends on. It's like a slow, steady poisoning of the well.
And what we're talking about here is this toxic cocktail. You've got industrial chemicals, pesticides, plastics, all kinds of waste, and it's seeping into every single corner of our environment. The scary part is this stuff doesn't just sit there. It gets into the system and actively destroys species and habitats from the inside out. So to really get how this works, let's look at a quick story, a tale of two waters. On the one hand, you've got a healthy lake. It's balanced, everything's working great. On the other hand, you've got a system that's been poisoned, but not by what you'd think. It's been poisoned by too many nutrients. Sounds weird, right? Too much of a good thing. This whole process is called eutrophication, and it's a perfect case study in how things can go horribly wrong.
Okay, so here's the step-by-step breakdown of the disaster. First, you get a ton of extra nutrients, like nitrates and phosphates, from fertilizers and sewage pouring into the water. Step 2, these nutrients act like junk food for algae, causing this massive, explosive growth. You've probably heard of a red tide.
Well, step 3, that bloom gets so huge it can't sustain itself, and it all just dies off. Now here's the killer move, step 4. All the bacteria that show up to decompose the dead algae, they use up a ton of oxygen. They literally suck the oxygen right out of the water, which leads to the tragic finale, step 5. The ecosystem suffocates. You get these massive dead zones where fish, crabs, you name it, they just can't breathe. It's a total collapse. Okay, let's recap. We've talked about the cracks in the foundation, the direct physical destruction, and that slow, creeping poison. Now we get to the final bosses. These are the 2 global threats that take every other danger we've just discussed and crank the difficulty up to 11.
First up, invasive alien species. And the difference here is actually pretty simple, but it's so important. You have native species, right? They've evolved in that ecosystem for ages. They're part of the natural balance. Then you have invasive species. These guys are the outsiders. They show up, often without any natural predators to keep them in check, and they can just completely take over, either by eating the native life or just outcompeting it for food and space.
And please, don't think this is a small thing. This is a huge problem. We're not just talking about a few annoying weeds. The source material is crystal clear on this. They are officially considered a main driver of biodiversity loss on a global scale. They get in there and they can totally wreck an entire food web. And that brings us to the last one, the big one, the ultimate threat multiplier, climate change. You got to understand, this isn't just one more problem on the list, it's the force that takes every single other pressure we've already covered and just makes it worse. I mean, the effects are just massive, and they're all connected. You've got rising sea levels that don't just threaten our cities, they literally swallow entire coastal habitats whole. You've got warmer waters and ocean acidification that are absolutely devastating coral reefs, which are basically the rainforests of the sea. River flows are getting all messed up, which threatens our water security. It's like climate change just turns up the volume on every single crisis that's already happening.
And this might be the most sobering part of it all. You see, in the past, when the climate changed slowly, species could adapt. They could move. They can migrate to find a new home. But the problem now is the speed. It's all happening so incredibly fast that many species just can't keep up. Their homes are changing faster than they can pack their bags and move, and that's effectively trapping them.
So, that leaves us with this final thought, right? From those tiny chemical cycles in the soil all the way up to the global climate system, it's all connected. It's like this incredibly intricate web, or maybe a giant game of Jenga that's holding up all life on Earth. So the real question isn't about losing one species or one forest. The real question is, what happens to the whole tower when we pull out just one more piece?